What you're about to witness are two role plays, two mock interviews, if you will. These are not real clients, but we set this up with Colin and Katie to really enter into their relationship and look hindsight and foresight. So in other words, becoming aware of what they're bringing into their relationship from their family of origin, and then issues that they might run into the future that are already kind of brewing and sitting there. So as you watch these interviews, I want you to see what points you most resonate with. Maybe if there's something that as you're watching this interview, you're watching this role play, that you go, ooh, this could be a tension point for us. I want you to take a pencil, I want you to take a piece of paper, and I want you to write that down. Individually, as you're watching this, write that down so that you can have conversation around it after the role plays. Colin and Katie, welcome back.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you guys again as well. So last time we met, I asked you guys to come back with an exercise that you guys were doing to bring two aspects of your family of origin that you wanted to bring into your marriage with you, and then two that you didn't after looking at the genogram and the other exercises we did, and looking at your family of origin and what is it that you wanted to bring in. And so I'd love to hear what you guys went back and wrote down and what you've come up with.
Okay, so the two things that I want to bring into our relationship would be, so I grew up with a really close family, and we also, between us, we had such a great sense of humor, and I want that for my future family as well.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, sense of humor. Good laughter.
Oh, yeah,
lots
all
of
the
fun.
time, joking all the time, and nobody takes themselves too seriously, so it was nice growing up.
And how's that played out in your relationship now?
We joke all the time. Maybe I tease her too much. That can be sensitive. A thing.
Yeah?
Yeah, we joke all the time.
So is sarcasm one of those?
Very sarcastic, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, which is one of those things that if you're not aware of, or you can think that it is serious or it is a slight against you. So you have to be careful how humor is used and being able to talk about that as we've talked before, right? Yeah. So what's another one?
The other thing would be, so my family moved around a lot, like we said before, and because my dad was in the military and he deployed a couple times, the four of us were just so close, and we had that mentality of us four, we can do anything and we can get through anything. So that tight-knit group, that's what I want as well.
Like teamwork.
Yeah, everything.
Like the value of team.
Yeah.
And how has that played out with you guys in your relationship at this point?
I think we've done such a great job of communicating, especially we did long distance for a few years through college. And yeah, I mean, just if one of our problems was both of our problems, and I think we've always been good with that.
What about for you?
One thing from my family that we really stuck to the whole time I was growing up is to make sure to eat dinner together every night, even if one person was at practice, one person's at work, we come together. And I think that's really important. Oh,
that's awesome. And have you guys played that out at all in your own relationship? Do you guys, obviously, not having dinner together every night, but just the sense of how you have centered around meals, your relationship around meal, just the meal being such an important part of a relationship. Have you guys already thought about traditions with that, or ways that you want to live that out and play that out?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we're kind of playing that out now. I mean, she's working and I'm still in school, and even on her lunch breaks, I'll still try and meet her for coffee, and I'll always try and wait to eat with her at night. And yeah, it's definitely something I want to bring to our family.
Yeah, we make it a point to have quality time, even if we're super busy.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, that's awesome. What's another one for you?
The other one was from an early age, my family taught us to own our responsibilities and handle your own business. And so I think that's really important to me, just taking care of what you need to take care of.
Taking responsibility. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as we've learned already in previous sessions, that idea that taking responsibility was one of the top ways that you have high marital satisfaction. Is you taking responsibility for your own actions in the relationship. You taking responsibility for how you communicate with one another. So you're already bringing that in to how, and so how does that play out when you have an argument? You guys taking responsibility yet for your own stuff?
So I guess some of our arguments could have started from she's always been super responsible and never has faltered from that. And there have been times where I've definitely slacked off in my life, but she's always been there to hold me accountable, and it makes me want to do better, because also if we're looking to get married and start a family, my decisions are going to affect her too. So it's definitely something that we've gone through.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. And so you've talked about that a little bit. So let's go, we talked about some of the positive, laughter, having dinner together, and now let's talk about some of those things that you've looked at through your genogram and some other exercises you guys have done, and you're like, man, this is one aspect. Love my family dearly, but this is one area that I'm like, I just don't necessarily want to bring this in. What would those be? It doesn't matter who goes first.
One for me would be yelling when there's fights going on. Like, I know everyone fights, everyone has their days, but I don't think yelling is really the answer. But
yeah, has that been carried on in your relationship at all? Like, do you react with yelling sometimes when you feel slighted or wronged?
I can feel myself
Colin?
getting like angry, but not necessarily yelling.
Okay, yeah, and plus you're not the type to. You're very soft-spoken, right? So not bringing that in, and then so as it relates to that, what does arguing look like for y'all? Like, in terms of how it might not be yelling, but how are you guys able to come to a resolution? Have you talked about how you fight?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I'm pretty sensitive, and I find myself crying a lot, honestly, even if the fight's not really a big deal. So that's something that we've dealt with, and he's not really as emotional as I am. So yeah. Yeah. But we try to wrap it up. Like, we don't let the fight linger for even more than a day, really.
Yeah, and I think that comes from we spent so much time apart that we don't let the little things bother us. We'll try, like she said, we'll try and get over it as soon as possible.
Or find a resolution.
Yeah. So we've always been good about that.
That's fantastic. And then what's another?
Another one for me would probably be my dad was away a lot when I was younger. He would always go to these professional development conventions. He's an educator. So having my mom take care of us a lot without my dad there, I don't know if I would want that for my future family.
Gotcha. And have you guys talked about that? Because that can be, especially when it comes to career, and it comes to what you guys, what your ambitions are. Who knows what type of a job you take and what might pull you away. Have you guys talked a little bit about what that could look like?
Kind of. His dad was away a lot too. He was in the military, and he was deployed a couple times. So I know he kind of feels the same way, like he had the same experiences, but... Yeah.
And what would happen if you did take a job where you were called away? Have you guys talked about what that could look like? Because that may happen, right? No matter what job we have, there might be times that you're away, that type of thing. And I think it's important to be prepared for it, if it does happen, and to talk about, this is a season, right? It might be a season of time, it might be a few months, or it might be, it could be at the long term, because it's a job that requires that. Have you guys talked about what that could look like if it does come up?
Yeah, I think we have talked about that, and we're both realistic because we grew up in an environment like that where one person may have to go away for a certain time, that I think we'd be able to work through it for sure, and it's not something that is like a make or break.
Yeah, good. Okay, fantastic. What about for you? What are two aspects that you want to not bring in?
So one thing that I wouldn't want to bring into our family would be, so there wasn't a lot of communication about feelings growing up. I don't know if it's just the way my family was, but I definitely see like those characteristics, they translated over to our relationship. Not necessarily, more me having a hard time saying how I feel sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and me, and what we've talked about is emotion language and making sure that we have that language, because it is so important, especially as it relates to intimacy, emotional intimacy, and connection in marriage. And so I'm really glad you mentioned that, because it's one that we've been talking about, as you know, for a number of weeks now. So I'm just really grateful that,
Yeah.
that you brought that one up. What's another one that might be, you don't want to bring in?
The other one kind of is related to that. I would say that growing up, if a family member was having like an issue with another person, they wouldn't want to confront that person. They would just kind of hold that in, and then it'll bottle up over a couple of days or whatever. And then there's this whole big situation. So if I could learn to communicate things and relay emotions as they're coming in, then I feel like I could avoid that.
Do you guys see that play out in your relationship now? Like if there's conflict, like you're afraid to approach it, or like how's that work?
I think it's not that I'm afraid to approach it. It's that I'm so used to just dealing with it. Like growing up, I would just deal with things and I wouldn't want my problems to affect anybody else. So, and I can say personally that sometimes it's not fair to her, because something could bother me, and it could have been like a week ago, and then all of a sudden some little thing happens, and I'm just like, I have some sort of reaction, and it could have been easily avoided if I just said how I felt initially.
Yeah.
I have like the opposite problem. I grew up in a house with 4 girls and then my dad, so I feel like we were always telling each other how we felt. So I've found in our relationship, if I feel something or if I see something, I'm gonna like tell him right away.
What's one way that you guys have dealt with that in your relationship now?
Well, we just started living together this past year, so we've been going through a lot of those things, especially after spending time apart, where we were so used to like, hey, a couple phone calls a day or whatever, FaceTime, and then now it's like you're living with a person. So that stuff just took time, but I feel like we're making strides every day.
Nice, yeah. Because when you're living together and you have this dynamic, right? It's like now all of a sudden it's not the same as long distance anymore.
Yeah.
The issues are being met right up front. They're in your face, and you're having to you're seeing them play themselves out. And so it's not like you hang up the phone and you're not going to talk. Maybe the next day or a couple days later.
Right.
You're waking up the next morning and you're looking at each other and you're going, wait. I feel like there's something.
Yeah.
Making sure that you navigate that well is very important. And as we talked about, made to communicate, talking about how you communicate, right? Not necessarily the issue. It's not necessarily the issue. It's how you communicate about the issue, right? And so I'm excited for our next session together. As we close this one, I just wanted to ask you guys, did you learn anything from one another today? With what she talked about from her family of origin and what he talked about from his, is there anything that you picked up from one another? You're like, oh wow, I didn't realize she was going to say that, or I didn't realize he was going to say that, or I'm glad that he said that, or I'm glad she said that. What surprised you? What can you point out about the other?
You wanna? Okay, I'll go. So when Katie was talking about how like growing up with sisters, and that's a different dynamic than my family, because I grew up with a brother and then my dad and my mom, so totally different atmosphere in the house. And I totally understand where she's coming from, like just saying how she feels right away. And I don't know, that's something I want to learn from and I want to implement in my life. Just being more open and communicating like right off the bat.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about you?
I appreciated how he was talking about the humor his family has and just how easygoing they are, because I feel like I can be a little uptight, I guess. So I appreciate him like wanting our relationship to be very laid back. 'Cause that's what I need.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, guys, I'm excited for next session. Thank you guys for today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.